about how his involvement in airplanes and model airplanes.
Yeah,
About Red Reinhardt and Larry Scarinzi and all the guys that influenced me when I was a kid,
I was going to ask, didn't your dad own a machine shop?
Yeah, and Red Reinhardt worked for him, and he continued to work for him for 36 years. And as a matter of fact, when I got old enough, I was working in the machine shop with Red on a daily basis.
Right.
So Red was like a big brother, a hero, best friend, fishing buddy, motorcycle buddy. We never did much flying together, but we did a lot of other things.
I got to ask, has Larry Scarinzi always been the same way he is today?
Oh yeah, he's never changed. He has not changed 0.1% in all the years I've known him.
They did a funny thing at Brodax where they said that Larry Scarinzi's so cheap that he gave a $10 Monopoly money tip to the waitress.
Yeah, that's probably true. Actually, but having said that, after everybody left, he probably went back and gave her a real $10 bill because he likes to have the image of being the Jack Benny of modeling, but really he's a very generous man.
Right. Every time I see him at Brodax, we always, have good conversations. I like him.
I like Larry too. I'll tell you something. This sounds awful, and I'll mention this when we talk. But my earliest recollections, the first things I recall, are Larry and Red. They were so much bigger than life, and always around the house. Constantly around the house, and playing with me when I was on the rug when I was like 2-3 years old. That my earliest recollections really are of Larry and Red.
Right.
That sounds awful, but it's the truth. And then Red was my hero from the time I was cognizant of being alive, and just going out watching him fly and hanging around him and pestering him, and I've tell this quick story about. My parents lived just outside of Newark, New Jersey, at a house there, and it was a residential area. And my dad had a machine shop in the basement, and what he did was he'd look for kids with talent, like Red, and Bob Tucker, not the Bob Tucker from St. Louis, but the other Bob Tucker, the one that won the Nationals once. He would find all this model airplane talent and then bring them in and teach them to run machinery because he knew that they were technically oriented. And so my mother would go out on our Studebaker Land Cruiser in the morning, and these guys would all park at a local parking lot, and she'd pick them up, and they'd all get down below the window line, and she'd drive the car into the garage and put the garage door down, and then they all get out of the car and go downstairs and work all day in the machine shop. And she'd bring them down fried chicken and stuff. She'd make lunch for them, and then at night she'd take them back out again the same way. And very clandestine, so that nobody in the neighborhood knew we had a machine shop going on in the basement. Of course, everybody did, and nobody cared.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, Bob, because unbeknownst to you in this phone check, I've been recording the last 10 minutes. Can I post that little story?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to talk about it anyway because this really happened.
Right. I just want to give them kind of
the end of that story. I mean, there's a little bit more to the story, though.
Go ahead.
And the end of the story is that I would go downstairs and pester everybody, incessantly until Red finally would have enough, and he'd pick me up by my ankles and put me upside down into the garbage bin where all the chips and oil and everything, oily chips were from the machines. And, then I'd run upstairs crying, and my mother would yell at Red, but, they always had a little smile in the corner of their mouth because they always thought it was pretty cute,
Right.
So Red was a huge, huge, huge influence on me. I should send you some photos of some of the things we're going to talk about, like Red and Larry, and I have good photos of both of them.
Well, go ahead and send those, and I'll post that with this clip because, that'll give them just a taste of what's going to happen with Hangar News. All right.
Yeah.
I apologize for not getting with you yesterday, but
no problem. Listen, you're talking to a guy that was into technical things just like you're into the video thing, and man, I was late with a lot of stuff, and I'm late with Stunt News. And you never have to apologize when you're trying to do something good, and you're enthusiastic, and you're trying to do something good, and if it doesn't work out the way you planned or scheduled it, that's that's to be expected.